I took my coat and left for my date. I took the metro. While I traveled on the busy streets of New Hampshire, I couldn't help but reminisce about the night before, when John had asked me out. I had been walking on air since then. The moment I arrived, I saw him, John, the man I had had a crush on since I started working for K Enterprises a year before. He looked at me as I entered, and his face lit up. I couldn't believe I was the reason why he was smiling. I felt so lucky, but everyone knows all good must come to an end. We had decided to meet at a popular Chinese restaurant in the main street. John had ordered chow mein, my favorite dish. I couldn't be happier, but all this happiness came to an end when I saw a face. A face I had been trying to forget. A face I wish I had never met. A face that had changed my life, and not in a good way. It was a hair-raising moment. I assumed it had just been my imagination, because the owner of that face I was so scared about was supposed to be far, far away. Some 14 cookies were brought to us. The waiter looked at me with a grimace. I opened the cookie and read the message. It said,
I have found you, Boo Boo Bear.
Those 5 words brought home to me that the sacrifice I had made by leaving everything behind had been in vain. All the blood to my face drained. John must have noticed, because he asked me if I was feeling okay. I didn't have the chance to answer. My body was asking me to leave, and I immediately bailed. Having left, I realized I hadn't even stopped to think about John, about how excited I had been for that date. I had been trapped by my past again, and that reality made my heart sink. Running back home, I made plans. Hundreds of ideas rushed through my brain in about 5 seconds. I had to change my hair color, but I didn't have time to have it dyed at the hairdresser's. I would dye it myself. I would need to find a new home, look for a new job, and start a new life in a new city. Again. I hated having to be scared, always running when he got too close to finding me. He, who I had loved once. On my way home, I stopped at a nearby supermarket and bought everything I thought I needed, to defend myself at least till I left the country. I bought bleach, a large kitchen knife, alcohol, matches, and hair dryer. The cashier looked at me with a bewildered expression, but I left without saying a word. Finally, I arrived to my block of flats. I saw that my apartment had been broken in. I gripped the knife with one hand and carried the bleach bottle in the other one. I heard a familiar voice.
Boo Boo Bear. Honey lips. Mama Sugar. Where are you?
I had dreamed of this, but none of the nightmares I had had during the last year had been so terrifying. Every time I had heard of this voice, I had been able to wake up, but this time there was no possible waking up. No way I could escape. There he was, Clay Hawthorne, sitting on my couch, as if it was home from home, as if he had any right to be there. I was so furious, I couldn't see straight, and wanting to hurt him, I threw the bleach straight through his face. His flesh was immediately burned by it. I ran out of the apartment but Clay grabbed my ankle, and I was thrown to the floor. I felt impotent. I knew that would be the end. I recalled everything I wouldn't have the opportunity to experience, the life I had dreamed about, next to John. I suddenly saw John's face. I thought he was an angel. I thought I was already in heaven, and if heaven was going to be like that, I was ready to let go. Clay's weight was taken off me. I heard a scream. Everything felt unreal. I couldn't see clearly, but I knew I was still alive.
Left, Riley. Left, please.
Said John. But I couldn't leave. There he was, trying to save my life, and he expected me to leave. He was my safe haven. I knew that I wouldn't be able to survive without him. John took the knife and stabbed it into Clay's back. He cried in pain, and then was still. I checked on him. As much as I hated him, I didn't want him to be dead. Also, I wanted to be sure John hadn't become a murderer. I called the police, and they said that they would also send an ambulance. I begged John to leave. He tried to argue with me, but in the end he knew as much as I did that when the police arrived, they would arrest him. Neither of us wanted that. He promised that he would call me when the police stopped looking for him, that we would be together, that nothing between us would change. But it did. Time passed, and he didn't call. He completely disappeared. I became the shell of the girl I had once been. I locked myself in my utility room, in low spirits, not wanting to see anyone. I thought John had decided I wasn't worth it. But then, one day, I got a call. I picked up the phone and heard.
It's John. I must see you at once.
created using Powtoon.